wanted to pop in, do a quick update on what we can expect from our next weather maker for this weekend, but also just kind of take a look at what we can expect from the weather, not only for this weekend, but into early next week as well. So if you can give me about 30 seconds to a minute, we'll get started in this update in full. And in the meantime, I will show you our upper level satellite loop, and that's big trough on moving into the Pacific Northwest. That is our storm system that's going to bring us some impacts as we head into this weekend. I'll preface this with doesn't look like it's going to be a heavy hitting system, especially when it comes to the precipitation side of things, but it is going to be a very windy system. That maybe actually end up being the biggest concern as we head into this weekend, will be at least the potential for some stronger winds. So if you can give me just a few minutes, I say a few minutes, probably a minute, and I'll get everything here set up behind the scenes, and we will get started in full momentarily. All right, 1 is working, and 2 is working, so we are good shape here. So I say let's get started. I'll try and make this relatively quick so I don't take up too much of your Halloween evening as we're starting to wrap up the, literally we're in the last few hours of the month of October, which is kind of still blowing my mind right now with how quick it feels like this year is going. But thanks for tuning in. I know we'll probably get a few more people as we go throughout this update, but if you have any questions or comments, certainly feel free to ask those in the chat section, and I'll jump in and try and answer them to the best of my abilities. So, like I mentioned, our next storm system is on the way. We've got a trough of low pressure that's really still up here west of British Columbia, but the south and southwesterly flow out in front of it is starting to move in, and there is an atmospheric river that's impacting parts of Washington and Oregon. It's still going to technically be an atmospheric river as it gets into northern Idaho and northwest Montana, but it is really decaying as it gets in here. So it's not going to be anywhere near as strong as what's currently ongoing. But as we look at radar, I'm going to loop this really quick. You can see a lot of these returns. It looks like there's a decent amount of moisture moving into areas along the divide down into southwest Montana. I would say most of this is likely not hitting the ground. Most of this is, the ground itself, or at least the surface area, is still pretty dry. Our atmosphere still needs to moisten up just a little bit. A few sprinkles can't be ruled out, especially as you get into the higher elevations where you might see, a few sprinkles, a few snowflakes trying to mix in. But for the most part, we're still dry right now. That will be changing later on. I want to zoom out, show you what's really on the way, and I need to get into a slightly different mode to show this. And you can see all of this moisture starting to move into places like the I-5 corridor back here towards Seattle, Vancouver, Washington, Portland. This is that atmospheric river. You can kind of see how it's almost like a hose of moisture moving in. Well, that is going to move its way into our region, but a lot of that moisture is getting squeezed out, and we won't see as much of that here. We will see some of it, especially up in our mountains, but in general, we're quiet now, and that was a great thing for Halloween evening, for trick-or-treating. As you can see, it's pretty quiet out there. We are seeing the clouds, but outside of that, it's a very pleasant evening. Temperatures upper 30s to low 40s are common across the region, so it's I'll say a decently mild evening for late October, and we'll continue to see these temperatures in the 30s for most of the area tonight. We are going to see those dropping down into the lower 30s. It's definitely not going to be that cold or that hot down in Dillon. We're going to be looking at the 30s there as well. It's a good thing I noticed that, something I can get fixed up before the 10 o'clock show tonight. But Dillon, there's your Halloween trick. It's going to be 150 degrees. Trick, no, it is not going to be 150 degrees tonight. So be prepared for those temperatures in the 30s. Area-wide, though, we could see a few of our higher elevation areas. Sealy Lake, 28 degrees, 19 there in West Yellowstone. Increasing cloud cover is expected across the region tonight. Now, fortunately, for southwest Montana, we're going to be very quiet for tomorrow, at least at least when it comes to the rain. We will see wind, so if you're heading out to Dillon, or you're in Dillon and you're heading out to the Montana Western game against Eastern Oregon, we're going to see those temperatures starting off in the upper 50s, finishing off into the lower 60s. But again, for the first day of November, temperatures in the 50s and 60s, this is going to be very pleasant. These temperatures anywhere from about 5 to 15 degrees above average for this time of the year. The one issue for southwest Montana will be those breezy conditions. I think at this point in the day, we're going to see winds anywhere from about, say, 10 to 20 miles per hour sustained. A few gusts into that 20 to 30 mile per hour range can't be ruled out, and I think that's going to be the case for a lot of the region tomorrow with southwesterly flow and that storm system rolling in. But that flow is actually what's going to help to keep the temperatures pretty mild tomorrow. Most of western Montana, we're going to be in the 50s to 60 degree range as we get into the afternoon. Here's where we get talking about this storm system, and there's going to be three main factors with it. I think the winds are going to be the biggest concern, and I actually need to update this because we have seen an increase in the forecast for those winds. But in general, sustained winds of anywhere from, I'll add this, 10 to 30 miles per hour. So I'll give it about a 20 mile per hour range. That's going to be the case for most of the region. We could be talking gusts 30 to perhaps as high as 60 miles per hour within western Montana. And into north central Montana, they're on the eastern side of the Rocky Mountain front, or into the Rocky Mountain front, eastern side of the divide. We could see gusts as high as 60 to 80 miles per hour coming down off the mountain. So some very strong winds for places like Browning, East Glacier Park, down over towards Cut Bank, maybe even as far south as places like Choteau and Helena. We could see some very strong winds. Not likely quite that strong within western Montana, but there will be some areas, and we'll get into that momentarily. But breezy winds likely going to be the biggest concern for this weekend. Some light rain, it says Saturday PM into Sunday. That's going to be for most of the region, though northwest Montana will be the exception of that, where we could see some of that as early Saturday morning, but those will be lingering on into Sunday. And then some light snow above 7,000 feet. So snow levels with this particular storm system are going to be quite high. It's a very mild system. Temperatures are going to be relatively warm. So we're going to see those up over 7,000 feet. And maybe as we get into Sunday and Monday, Sunday night into Monday morning, those drop down to around 5,000 feet. So maybe some snow showers down towards pass level, but still not expecting a whole lot when it comes to travel impacts, and I'll show you why when we get into Future Tracker. Now, here is that look at winds. We've got high wind watches, high wind warnings, and lake wind advisories across the state of Montana. Starting off with the lake wind advisory, that runs from 6 p.m. to 2 p.m., 6 p.m. Saturday to 2 p.m. on Sunday for Flathead Lake, Swan Lake, those areas where we could see some choppy conditions due to those winds as high as, say, 25 to 35 miles per hour. So some 1 to maybe 3 foot waves can't be ruled out. Then we get into the stronger winds where we have the high wind watch for within western Montana, the Madison River Valley, the Big Belt, Bridger, and Castle Mountains here into parts of Broadwater and Gallatin counties, where we could be talking winds as high as about 60 miles per hour, at least in the worst of those. One area that's typical for getting these kinds of strong winds is down here towards Ennis, Cameron, Norris, Jeffers, where I think is going to be the primary focus for those stronger winds upwards to, again, 60 miles per hour, sustained winds 25 to 35 miles per hour can't be ruled out, and that includes places like Bozeman Pass up over Bridger Canyon as you're heading in the direction of Wilsall and Clyde Park over into northern Park counties, or in northern Park County. Then, if you have any travel plans that take you into kind of more of north central Montana, where we have the high wind warning in this more golden shade, I just want to read this. So southwest winds 40 to 50 miles per hour sustained, with gusts up to 80 miles per hour are expected. Isolated gusts in excess of 90 miles per hour are possible. So if you have any travel plans north-south in that region, US 89, I think it's US 89, just be aware there's going to be some very nasty crosswinds. That area, I know it's pretty typical to get these kinds of winds, but pretty nasty when you get winds that are exceeding, say, 70 to 80 miles per hour. That can cause some big problems. And even in the areas where the winds are a little bit less in that 40 to 60 miles per hour range, or mile per hour range, like we're seeing back towards Ennis and outside of Bozeman, with the winds like this, we could see loose debris off the patios getting picked up and thrown, into your neighbor's property. So be aware of that. We also could see some minor power outages. That's definitely a concern. Maybe not quite as much because a lot of the trees have lost their leaves. That's another thing. If your trees haven't lost their leaves yet or they haven't dropped them yet, this is the kind of wind event that really is going to bring a lot of them down and transition us more to our typical winter trees for the next little bit. But also, north-south travel on those north-south highways could be very treacherous, especially for high-profile vehicles, 18-wheelers, larger trucks can also have that issue. But also, I see like the U-Haul trucks and the U-Haul trailers. Those are ones that could certainly have some issues for tomorrow. And RVs could be very, very difficult. So like I said, the winds may be the bigger story than anything, but let's jump into the precipitation side of things here in just a moment. I will time the winds out though. For the most part, we're talking 10 to 20 mile per hour winds outside of southwest Montana as we get into the early afternoon, but it's as we get into the evening of Saturday, those winds really start to pick up, and I think this is that window starting about 6 p.m. We're going to see 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts being common across the entirety of the region. Then we get into those areas where we were dealing with the wind advisories, the lake wind advisories, but also the high wind watches. Overnight, we could see those gusts as high as 30 to 50 miles per hour, maybe even a few 60 mile per hour gusts. But watch as we get into Sunday morning. Here's that window where the strongest winds are going to be just ripping across north central Montana. I say sustained gusts. Occasional gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour for Cutbank, 40 to 50 for Great Falls, Havre, and Lewistown. Within western Montana, we're still talking 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts. Those should start to subside as we get into the afternoon. The core of that storm system starts to push off to the east. Winds should start to taper off as we head into Sunday evening. Now, this is as I was getting ahead of myself a moment ago, here's the precipitation side of things. A few light showers can't be ruled out for the rest of the evening. These are going to be very spotty, most of those staying in our higher elevations. Those will start to increase, though, in northwest Montana, maybe as early as, say, 3 to 5 a.m. Some spotty showers into parts of Lincoln, Sanders, maybe even Mineral counties. But watch as we get into later into the late morning, early afternoon, more of that moisture starts to move into places like Kalispell, West Glacier, Hungry Horse, maybe even some of this down into the Mission Valley as well, the I-90 corridor, back over into, again, Mineral, Sanders counties. Scattered showers are going to be common. This will slowly be sagging southward, so we're going to see that moisture primarily in northwest Montana for this event. West central portions of the state, maybe as early, I'll use Missoula-Hamilton as an example. We may start to see those as early as, say, lunchtime, but the later into the afternoon and evening we go, I think the more likely we are going to see those getting into places like Missoula and Hamilton. One issue, and this is one of those, we always just kind of have to watch and see what happens with these west to east systems. We do tend to get downslope flow, and as that happens, it evaporates a lot of that moisture from reaching the valley floor. So this may be another one of those situations we see that, which may limit the amount of rain that we actually see in places like the US 93 corridor from the Mission Valley down through the Missoula, through the Jocko, Missoula, and Bitterroot valleys. I think as we get later on into the evening, though, that will be a little bit less of a likelihood. We'll still be dealing with it, but you notice a lot more of that moisture starts to move in as that decaying atmospheric river does and centers over places like Missoula, Hamilton, and then further to the north and east from there. And that's going to continue overnight, slowly trending south. And as we get into the early morning hours of Sunday, this is when southwest Montana starts to get involved. But watch how it becomes much more isolated in nature. The showers really start to taper off, and there isn't much moisture left to get into places like Dillon and Bozeman. Can't rule out some spotty showers, but for the most part, I think we stay dry down into much of southwest Montana. This is also going to be the window as we see those snow levels dropping from 7,000 feet down to about 5,000 feet into Sunday morning. And at this point, the storm is really clearing us. We could see a little bit of sunshine as we head into Sunday afternoon as well, based on this particular forecast model. It'll likely be short-lived because more moisture is on the way as we head into Monday. You see those clouds filter right back in for Monday morning, and we'll see another system moving in for Monday morning. And this one, that's actually a little bit of a change. This may have enough cold air that more of a concern for some valley snow for a few locations into Monday morning. This one will be one to watch for into this weekend. Still, though, that said, I don't think we'll probably see a ton of impacts, but maybe into Monday, that's when we're having to talk about pass impacts. So certainly stay tuned to that forecast as we head into this weekend. Sunday night into Monday may actually be more of a wintry weather story than compared to Saturday and Sunday morning, where that's going to be mostly a wind event. So, like I said, most models were pretty quiet into Monday morning or Monday afternoon, Monday evening. This one's a little more aggressive with the amount of moisture coming in. So that'll be one to definitely watch. And that leads me to part of my next thing. Through Monday morning, really through Sunday night, most areas west of the divide, or along and west of the divide, will at least see a little bit of rainfall. For our valleys, downslope flow may really limit what we see, but up in our mountains, maybe 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of precipitation can't be ruled out, especially right along the state line. And up and along the divide, elsewhere, we should stay pretty dry. I didn't put this out through Monday afternoon and evening, but I wouldn't be surprised to see these totals go up. But some isolated, 1/10 to 1/4 inch rainfall amounts can't be ruled out, though I think most areas will probably, at least on the US 93 corridor, will likely see less than 1/10 of an inch, outside of, again, those very isolated locations. Now, like I mentioned, we aren't done with the active weather. Really, this is just going to be an ongoing pattern. We may see these, one system roll through, about a 18 to 24-hour period of quiet weather. Another system rolls through, and then essentially a rinse and repeat of that as we head over the next, say, 5 days to a week. And you'll see that here on that forecast tracker for precipitation. Saturday, and most of these totals are for areas west of the divide, places like Missoula and Kalispell. Saturday, about a 70% chance of showers. That drops down to about 30% on Sunday. Monday may have to go up depending on how the trends are with that next system. We'll continue to see more moisture into Tuesday. It drops off into Wednesday about midday. We'll likely see another system moving in for that Thursday, Friday timeframe. So in general, while none of these systems right at the moment seem overly impressive, like they're going to bring us a ton of moisture, they are going to have their own impacts. So with this first one, primarily wind with some rain for our valleys, a little bit of high elevation snow. That one Monday into late Sunday night, Monday and into Tuesday, that one could actually have a little bit more snowfall involved for passes. So that'll be one to certainly keep a close eye on. So pretty much that is everything that I had for this evening. This is going to be kind of that last call. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask those, and I can try and answer them really quick. But in general, like I said, the main takeaways from this, and I'll show the headlines graphic if you happen to come in just a little bit late. Breezy winds, sustained winds anywhere from about 10 to 30 miles per hour are going to be common across the region. Gusts as high as 30 to 60 miles per hour across western Montana are going to be possible. Strongest winds will still be on the Rocky Mountain front, where we could see gusts as high as 70 to 90 miles per hour. Places like Choteau, Browning, East Glacier Park, and then somewhat lesser winds as you head towards Helena at Great Falls. But still, 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts can't be ruled out. In our area, the strongest winds will likely be down towards Ennis, Bozeman Pass, where we could see those as high as 40 to 60 miles per hour. Outside of the wind, we also have, I need to mention this, the lake wind advisory for Flathead Lake, where we could see 1 to 3 foot waves due to 25 to 35 mile per hour winds. Outside of the winds, light rain Saturday into Sunday is going to be our main focus, with those snow levels above 7,000 feet. But as we've There we go, and we're back. I was having a little bit of an issue there. It dropped off and then didn't want to connect. Where I was at on that is the one change, or at least one thing to focus on for the beyond, say, Sunday morning. Sunday night into Monday, we could see a bit more moisture with that next wave, that next disturbance that rolls through. That might have enough cold air that we bring those snow levels down to near pass level, maybe a little bit below. Something we'll be keeping a close eye on as we head through this weekend. But there is going to be the potential, again, over our passes, Monday, I'll say Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Tuesday morning, where there could be at least some accumulating snowfall. Still some question marks about how that next wave will come through. But it may be just a tad more, wintry weather impact, or see a slightly higher level of winter weather impact as compared to this one, which will be primarily rain and wind. So with that, I will wrap it up now that we're back running here for the moment. But tune into our live broadcast tonight at 10 o'clock for the latest news and weather updates. Also, it is the official final night of Big Sky Friday nights, or at least of the Big Sky Friday night show, as we are in the first week of the high school football playoffs. And we'll have highlights for those games that are taking place tonight. I know there's quite a few of them that are for tomorrow, especially in the lower divisions, 6-man and 8-man, like Class C ranks. But if you have any photos or videos of the weather coming in the next few days, some of the Halloween fun that you've had, the decorations, things like that, feel free to share those with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in. And tune into our shows this weekend for those latest news and weather updates as well with, I believe, it should be Phil Howard and Sophia Ward on weather. So, hope you have a great rest of your Halloween evening. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on the next one, likely into the early parts of next week with that next disturbance rolling in after this first one. So, have a great one with NBC Montana. I'm meteorologist Mitchell Combs.